Welcome to Spring LIB.
So for the first part, we have to see where the kinetic energy of the pendulum bob is maximum. Now kinetic energy plus potential energy is constant, has to be a constant because the total energy is conserved. Now the kinetic energy is maximum when the speed is maximum because kinetic energy depends on square of the speed of the object. So whenever there is maximum speed, we get the maximum kinetic energy. Now, this means that where the pendulum moves the fastest, there we have the maximum kinetic energy. Now, at the lowest point of the motion of the pendulum, potential energy is minimum because we are talking about the lowest point, and potential energy depends on the height from the ground. Therefore, at the lowest point, the height is minimum. Therefore, potential energy is minimum. And by this equation, because both of them are constants, we can say that whenever potential energy is minimum, kinetic energy is maximum, and vice versa. So, at the lowest point, potential energy is minimum, therefore kinetic energy is maximum. And also at the lowest point, the pendulum moves the fastest, and through that way also we can say that the kinetic energy is maximum at the lowest point. Now for part B, we have to see where the potential energy is maximum. Now we will use the same equation, the first one, that is the sum of kinetic energy and potential energy both has to be a constant because total energy must be conserved. Therefore, whenever kinetic energy is maximum, potential energy is minimum, and vice versa. Now, as I wrote this equation, potential energy depends on the height from the ground. So whenever height increases, potential energy increases. So potential energy will be maximum when H is maximum, and that is when the ball, that is at the end points of the path of the pendulum. And at those endpoints, we can justify this answer that potential energy is maximum, so kinetic energy has to be minimum or zero. So at the endpoints, this is the pendulum. So these two are the endpoints. Goes like this and goes like this. So at these two endpoints, the pendulum bob momentarily comes to a stop and then again moves in the other direction. Therefore, you can say that at those extreme 2 points, the kinetic energy becomes zero for an instant. And through that way also, you can say that as the kinetic energy over here becomes zero, the potential energy becomes maximum in order to conserve the total energy. Now, in the last part, we have to see when the kinetic energy uh, is half of its maximum value. So, again, kinetic energy plus potential energy is equal to total energy, and by law of conservation of energy, this has to be a constant because energy is always conserved. Therefore, when kinetic energy is half of its maximum value, then potential energy also goes to half of its maximum value. The bob is at this point exactly halfway in height between its lowest and highest point. So over here, the lowest point of the bob, and these two are the highest point where potential energy is maximum. So at the position of the kinetic energy being half of the maximum value, or the potential energy becoming half of its maximum value, the bob is somewhere in middle of its highest and lowest position. So over here, let's call this the middle position, or over here. Thank you.